There is a solution for that is sponsored by VARC Solutions. VARC Solutions helps small businesses succeed by delivering expert QuickBooks bookkeeping, consulting, quick-base development, and integrated solutions. If you own a small to medium-sized business that uses QuickBooks or QuickBase, the experts at VARC Solutions can help. In business since 1999, with people who care and the knowledge and experience to solve your toughest problems. Visit varcsolutions.com for all your QuickBooks needs. Welcome back to another edition of There's a Solution for That, where we help small businesses succeed by discussing challenging business problems and best-in-class solutions. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of There's a Solution for That. Got a great guest, a repeat guest, actually, to our podcast. Yay! David Needham of Ero Consulting. David, again, just kind of tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll dive into the topic today in terms of the topic, which is how to build a small business back office through culture, people, and financial strategies.
Perfect. Well, Brad, thank you again for having me on. Hold on. Are you getting this?
Yeah, you were moving around a little bit, but yeah, we can restart that.
Yeah, it said my internet was a little unstable, so I froze for a second. You want to restart?
I think you're good. Yeah, we'll restart here. Yeah, I didn't see anything on my end, so I just say keep going.
All right, I will.
If you freeze for whatever reason, like it,
right,
then I'll let you know.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, cool. Here we go again. All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of There's a Solution for That. We have a guest, in fact, a repeat guest to our show, David Needham of Ero Consulting, and we've got a really great topic that I think will affect a lot of you that are running small businesses. And really, the topic is, how do you build a small business back office through culture, people, and financial strategy? So, David, welcome to the show.
Brad, thanks for having me on for the second time. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of knowledge with everybody.
Yeah, so for people that may have missed the first episode that we did a while back, tell us a little bit about you and the kind of businesses that you're running.
Well, first, I'm a full-time firefighter, so that's kind of my day job. Outside of that, I run 2 CrossFit gyms, and I run a business consulting company that really for small businesses to help them build their back end, organize things, sometimes taxes, advice on taxes, and just some legal things to help them out.
Okay, fantastic. So kind of a little bit of a jack of all trades in terms of like the small business and just helping them operate their back office and systems better. And I think that's great. What you do is really very needed by a lot of small businesses, especially ones that maybe don't feel like they have the time to work on the business. They're too busy working in the business. So tell us about like just your concept of what it means to run a back office. Like, what does that look like?
So the back office is like the unfun, the unsexy things that like nobody wants to do. So it's organizing things, it's getting your SOPs and SOGs together, so your standard operating procedures and guidelines together. It's talking with your like head people to make sure that they know what their roles and responsibilities are. It's looking at finances, it's doing your QuickBooks, it's filing taxes, it's routine stuff that is the unsexy, boring stuff that nobody wants to do. But if you do it really well, it makes your small business soar.
Yeah. So when I think of what that looks like for me, it's like we've got a monthly billing process, we've got a monthly sales tax process, we've got a weekly payroll process, we've got all of those things that we're doing, some of which are super automated, some that are a little bit more one-off because a client said I need this or I want this when I get my monthly bill, and so we try to accommodate. But so I get that, right? And that is the non-sexy part. That's actually the not so fun part, but it's the necessary part if we want to have good financials and be able to know if we're making money and staying on top of that stuff. So how does culture play into that? Because I know that's a big part of what you do, and we'll dive a little bit more into the pouring into your leadership team? Because I know that's something we've chatted about, but
Yeah.
how does culture impact all this? Because it
So I
seems like
think,
because it seems like culture in standard operating procedures might be a little bit disconnected. So help me connect the dots.
yeah, uh, my impression of culture, you can have it immediately as a person that deals with a business. So from the start of the first phone conversation to all your interactions, culture is super important. And I believe it's top down. So it starts with ownership or whoever is at the top, your CEO or your C-suite, and then it trickles all the way down through your managers, through your generals into your employees and on out into the customers for the feel that they get. So to me, it starts at the top and it's just like a cascade effect.
Okay. So, tell me, let's dive into that a little bit more. So, like, what are the types of things that you feel like from a top-down perspective, an owner, CEO, general manager can do to affect that culture, and how does that ultimately affect the client experience?
Yeah, I think willingness to be open and listen and having really good communication is the number one thing that you can have with your employees. You don't have to take their advice, but you have to be open and listen to it. And the way I view it is I like to try to pick holes in the things that my full-time staff members and people that I consult with bring to me and go, okay, have you thought about this instead of being like, nope, that's a bad idea. Nope, that's a bad idea. Okay, let's cultivate, let's run with this idea. Let's learn a little bit. Let me show you from my experiences of making a bunch of mistakes. Why that probably won't work as well as you think. It's a great idea. Um, how that translates into SOGs is it's how you communicate. So it's how you write it down on paper. So it seems like something that everybody is just doing and less of like, I'm commanding you. I'm the owner. I rule you. You're a peasant beneath me.
Okay, got it, got it. All right, so let's talk about, you talk about like full-time people, you talk about your leadership team. How do you pour into your leadership team so that maybe they feel empowered to take that vision and that culture and live it out, and really do things better and better every day?
Yeah, so I've hired them for a reason. They're in the role for a reason. I don't need to do their job for them. I need to trust that they hired them to do the job. And when things go a little haywire, that's when you step in and you kind of go, "Hey, let's have a conversation about this." So, an example, right? When we have at my second gym, I stepped in more of like the, "Hey, we're taking over this gym, like we're rocking and rolling. Here's our head coach." And the head coach is also an owner, but he didn't have as much of a dominant presence as I did, even though he's going to be the guy that you see all the time. And so early on, the challenge was is that when I was there, everybody came to me with their problems, and it was like, hey, go to this guy. Like I'm not, I'm and I would try to fix problems. And so then I was like, hey, you know what? I don't have that answer. You need to go talk to my our head coach and our owner here because he's going to fix all your problems. I'm just here to be like a liaison and fun. And then he would have the problem. He would bring it to me and be like, hey, I don't know how to solve this problem. And I use the rule. It's a 1-3-1. I learned it online. It was super great. 1-3-1 is simple. What's your problem? Give me three solutions and then tell me out of those three solutions which one is going to be the best solution in your opinion. And most of the time, these people come to you and they're like, all right, I got a problem. I'm like, okay, give me your three solutions. And they give you three solutions and you go, this solution, have you thought about it? This solution, have you thought about it? This solution, have you thought about it? And then through those, they're like, yeah, those two were kind of bad. Let's do this one. And so they like come up with their own answer. Sometimes they don't even need me, but most of the time they come up with their own answer. They're like, that's the solution I want to go with. Thank you for just listening.
Well, I mean, I think that 1-3-1 is pretty, like you said, it's pretty simple, but also powerful, right? But what I like the most about it is you're not creating an environment where they're relying on you to just give them the answers. You're teaching them and empowering them to find the answers themselves, and whether that's um, teaching them in the true sense, like I'm educating you. It seems to me it's more like they're learning and they're growing through that
Mhm.
process, so that they don't need you as much as they might have had in the past, but that's because they're learning and they're figuring it out.
Yeah, it's the perception of they need me, and then they just tell me everything that they want to do, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I would do. And they're like, oh yeah, that's great. I really didn't need you. I appreciate your time. You're like, yeah, hey, let's do some other things. But I'm okay if they fail a little bit because it gives me the opportunity to then come back and teach them.
Hey, so pause here just for a second, and that's only because you did freeze for about 30
Oh,
seconds.
man.
You did freeze for about 30 seconds there. So I think we
Okay.
can probably we'll try within the post production editing and cut that part out. Um, let's see. So where were we? We were talking about because you froze and I was like, uh-oh.
Oh, about trusting your employees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So why don't we, let's see, are you still there? You're freezing again. Think you're, think you're freezing again. Let's see here.
Oh, did I freeze again? I'm back.
Now you're back. You're back now. But yeah, I think I'm seeing reds on your internet, so that's probably the reason why. So let's do this.
Well, I can move locations if that helps.
Well, it's going between white and yellow, so I think we can make it through it. I'm just gonna let Ashley know that we got a little edit in the middle.
Okay.
Let's see. Okay, so
Trusting.
yeah, empowering them through the Q&A and that kind of stuff. Got it.
Yep.
Um,
So to finish my thought on that,
yeah, why don't you start over with just start with a brand new sentence and then we'll see if we can edit it.
okay. One of the big things that I always do is I always trust my employee. So the biggest thing you can do is you hire them for a reason. You want to empower them for a reason. Don't step on their toes. Don't step in and do it for them. Like let them work through it. And when they make a mistake, usually the mistake's really not the end of the world. So it gives you an opportunity for a teachable moment and something that they really get more out of. As we both know with owning businesses, when you make a mistake, those are the things that I've learned from the most.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you talk about making mistakes, and we've all made them. I mean, if we're honest, we've made mistakes. No matter what level you are and how long you've been in your career, we're making mistakes, and we're still making mistakes. One of the mistakes that I found in my own self is sometimes I really should have said no, like let's not do that, because I knew it was maybe not the best idea, but I was like, hey, this is a teachable moment. Let's let them learn. Let's let them try. And I didn't want to be the one that says, no, we're not going to do that. That's a stupid idea. Um, and sometimes it's not stupid. It's just, yeah, we have done that. We have tried that, and it didn't work out so good.
Yeah.
So I've kind of learned, at least in my own experience, to when I've got that thing ticking in the back of my head saying, uh, yeah, let's not do that. That's going to be a big waste of time. I've
Mhm.
learned at least to be honest and upfront about that, to say, you know, I don't think that's a, I don't think that's going to work. How about to your point, let's come up with another solution that maybe we haven't tried that could be possible, right? That's at
Yeah.
least something that I've tried to listen to my own voice sometimes and at least be upfront and say, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a great. It's also to admitting like, hey, that's really not a good idea. We've already made that mistake, and telling them your personal experiences of the mistake that you've made, so they go, ah, I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, so talk about financial strategies. You mentioned, part of building the back office is through also implementing various financial strategies. So what are some of those things that you tend to focus on?
So the one thing that I always talk about with people how do you view money? Do you care about it? Do you want it to just come in and function and you don't really want to worry about it? Do you really care about money? Do you want to know down to the penny what you're spending? And a lot of different owners are much different in all their views on things. For me, I am super detailed, not down to the penny, probably more down to like the dollar or $10. But my strategy is figuring out what and where all the money is going to. And I use a monthly routine, not so much a weekly or bi-weekly. I bring it all into a month routine. So my routine is we have an in account where all of the money that we make through the month goes in. And then the start of the next month, we move it to all the allotted buckets, however you want to do it. Spreadsheet, multiple bank accounts, people use apps, right? However you want to move the money to show you where each thing is in each bucket. And for me, it's like payroll bucket, taxes, capital expenditures. So like, what are we doing to upgrade? Normal operating things. So all these buckets have a percentage base where I know about what we're spending to give us a little leeway. And so I
Mhm.
move it all there. And then throughout the month, I pick dates of when I'm going to do stuff. Payroll runs on this date and this date. We pay mortgages on this date or rent on this date. We pay all of our other bills on this date. We pay all of our credit cards on this date. And so for me, it's just little reminders in my calendar to be like, hey, you got to do this one thing. And it's tasked. And I keep it standard through all my businesses. So all of our utilities at both gyms, they all get paid on the 8th. So it's one thing, it's a task. I go in, boop, boop, knock it out, done. I can move on to the next thing. I know everything's in the right accounts because I move money on the first. And then so I'm always kind of like a month ahead in my finances.
Okay. So really it's just about it's about at least my take on what you just said is it's more like you making and executing a plan versus just because you got a bill in the mail, you pay it, when
Right.
they want you to pay it, right? So it's
Yeah.
a little bit more planning ahead on your own terms
Mhm.
versus letting somebody else or some other, outside party determine when and where you do stuff.
Yeah, you just I have found that when I did that prior, I was just wasting a lot of time figuring out when and what I was paying. So my plan is on a monthly basis. Some people like 2 weeks, some people like 1 week because they want to stay up on their finances a little bit more. Probably recommend you're a little bit more up to date on at least knowing what's in your bank accounts earlier in your company's development. As
Yep.
soon as you start to build a little bit of a cushion, which we leave in what I call the profit account. So once you have your cushion in there, from then it's kind of like, all right, let's move to a monthly thing because you got way more other things to deal with other than checking the bank accounts and finances and paying the one bill, every day like we talked about.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Makes sense. Well, so how have you seen that financial strategy, and then let's combine in, how you run and manage a back office and the team and the culture and that kind of stuff. How have you seen that ultimately play out in terms of profitability? Because we need a business impact on all these things we're talking about. How do you see that play out in the profitability of a business?
So I would say the most basic part that I've actually seen is, and I'm going to hone this really far down, is in our payroll. So at one of my locations, we put a certain percentage of the income we make a month in the payroll account. It has since built up, and so now we're at a point of like, okay, are we ready to hire the next employee? Because now we know we have a little bucket in there, and the amount that we normally pay in payroll, we're putting this amount in. So could this little extra that we have cover the next full-time person? And this is the entire process of this is to give you as the owner more time back in order to work on the things that make your business the most money.
Okay, so it's an interesting strategy, and quite frankly, it's very unique. Not run in anybody or a business that really kind of operates that way. So I'm very intrigued. But what it sounds like is, and correct me if I'm wrong, when
Mhm.
you think of like that payroll as a percent, I
Mhm.
imagine you're probably like that payroll needs to not exceed a certain percent,
Mhm.
right? And so obviously if I'm spending less on payroll, that's and still able to do what I do and run the business and service customers, that's a good thing.
Right.
but because you're putting in a little bit, maybe more than you need for that payroll function, that's giving you an idea that you could afford another person when you need it, when you feel like the business requires it.
Yes. So this is more about the growth part of this. And so most small businesses, they want to get to a point where they want to get bigger and bigger and bigger and double what they do, triple what they do. And so the growth strategy that I give most of the small businesses I work with is, all right, we're here. If we know we're making this based upon all the other bills being taken care of, money's not a problem, right? It gives us the ability to see where our growth can come and where our growth can go.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'm going to shift gears on you a little bit because
Okay.
in one of the prior webinars that we did, we touched on this, and I said, okay, this is a bigger thing. Let's dive into this a little bit more. Okay, so we talk about people, talk about culture, talk about leadership, and running a business, and that kind of stuff. One of the things we touched on last time was the fact that you had hired your wife as a head coach and obviously a business partner in your life, but how has that worked out, and how do you manage that component of it? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that have a husband and wife working together, and how have you seen that played out in culture? How have you seen that played out in leadership, and how do you manage maybe some of the intricacies of working with your spouse?
Gotcha. Culture, I think, is probably one of the easier things because we're on the same page. It's really nice because we can talk about things 24/7 if we want. Not that you should, but we can. And giving that time of like, oh, hey, I just remembered this instead of like, let me schedule a meeting with my boss. Let me make sure that I write this down. It helps us pull together a little bit better. And I think that drives our culture much because we're on the same page. We talk about something, we do it. She has ideas, I let her run with it. It goes great. But she lets me lead and she leads in her own way as well. But because we're so in sync and because outside of the business, we're great. Like there's no problems. We have a blast. She's my well, I would say not one of them, but she's my best friend, right? Like I was one of them is,
One of several best.
I got some guy best friends, right? But she's
Love
my
it.
best friend. I spend the most time with her. It is nice to be able to build something with her and for both of us get the fruits of the labor.
Right. Do you ever have any either confusion or conflict or below the surface kind of drama that's related to that when it comes to other people in the company? Like, who's the boss? Is it him? Is it her? Those kind of, I can't say this because that's going to get back. Do you have any of that kind of stuff? At least, are
Uh,
you aware of any of that stuff?
we don't. We've had some people that have definitely tried. And they'll come to me one on one or they'll come to her one on one. But that person will immediately go to the others and be like, hey, look, such and such said this about you. I get where they're coming from. You might want to really think about it. So it's been nice to get real reflection from someone that you respect. And I think that's a really good aspect when you have a partner that is your wife or family, right? You know you're getting authentic. I want you to get better. I'm not just trying to cut you down.
Right. Well, you kind of alluded to it. You kind of said it, but without saying it. But it's almost like the same way you have to treat kids that are trying to pit one parent against the other. Get permission from them because the other one's not going to give you permission. And as long as the parents are talking and
Mhm.
communicating proactively, right? It's like, hey, did you hear this? Oh, I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to go talk to, that kind of stuff. but uh I'm sure that mistakes have been made, right? So
Mhm.
and so as we kind of get to the end of our episode or topic here, what are maybe some of the mistakes that you've made in that regard, either from the not managing that part with your spouse well, or just some of the other maybe kind of like mistakes that other people can learn from in terms of the back office?
Yeah. For me, my communication has not always been as good as it is now. So trying to explain to my wife, right, or fiance or girlfriend at the time, something that they did really bad has not always come off clear. right? And you can always take it to a different level because you know they're going to love you anyways type thing. And like
Yeah.
at home, you get into an argument, it gets heated, things get a little raised. And I did that a little bit at the gym and in when we were in owner employee mode. And she was like, "Hey, look, like that's a rough way to talk to me." And I was like, I thought at the fire department, what if one of my superiors talked to me that way? It's like, I'm not a kid. You don't talk to me like a kid. And it really has made me a better communicator to like sit down, think about what I'm going to say. I would say that outside of her, all my other employees get this really polished, way better rendition of me because of her being the like employee of like, hey, you messed up. How do I tell you you messed up? And then later tonight, I would like to share some married time with you, right? So, like,
Right.
what's the best way to go about it? And there's times where we talk and I'm like, hey, I just need to vent as your partner versus, hey, I need to talk to you as your boss. And she has the same thing where she's like, hey, I'm just venting. Just let me vent. Let me go. And I'm like, all right, run the best into it. But the mistake that I made was getting amped up.
Letting your emotions run ahead of your thinking and your
Yep.
interaction and your process. Yeah, that is a that's a good lesson to learn. That is for sure. So, words of wisdom out there for folks that are listening that do work with your spouse. And I think the message there is think before you speak, process before you react.
Mhm.
Um, uh, and also try to create some boundaries between the work and the non-work time so that it's not just a constant blur and you're always talking about it and that kind of stuff. So, well, hey, I appreciate all the feedback, all the suggestions. I mean, again, just some of the financial strategies of just like carving money out and allocating it. I think those are really, really good things to help um, not only just manage the budgeting side of your business, but also just it probably makes you a lot more aware of where the money is and where it's going, and anything that you can do as a business owner to get you in the mode of paying more attention to that stuff, I think is super, super helpful. So again, thanks, David, for being on the show, and really appreciate your suggestions.
Thank you, Brad, for having me, and let me know if you need anything.
All right, I will do it. Thanks for being on the show. Well, and for everybody else, hope you enjoyed the show and got a lot out of it, and we will see you next time. There is a Solution for That is produced by VARC Solutions. This episode was produced by Ashley White and Aaron Riley. You can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Watch the video version on youtube.com/There's a Solution for That. Or visit varcsolutions.com/podcast, where you'll find our entire podcast archive, as well as show notes, links to solution providers, and complete transcripts of every episode. If you love the podcast, please leave a review with your comments.